Hey there guys, EctoMaster here. It's Sunday, so it's time for another case file. And this week, well, seeing as this game is about to have a sequel, I figured we'd finally take a look at The Sims 3. Now, if you recall, I started up a couple of series, then fell behind, having some issues recording, and overall just general issues with the game of Sims 3, my guilty pleasure. Now, there isn't really any history to Sims 3. Not like, Bioshock Infinite or, no real basic plot. Because you, the player, make the plot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a brief rundown of the Sims franchise. Now, the reason I'm doing this, it's going to lead up to my thoughts on Sims 3. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take a look at the start of it, which was The Sims. Now, The Sims came out in 2000, so it's already been 14 years since the very first Sims game came out. Now, it was developed by Maxis and then published by EA, of course. It was created, it was led by, the development was led by Will Wright, who did SimCity. And the basic plot, the basic idea is you can make a family, like your own, and you can guide them through the typical day, having them go to work, cook food, clean the house, etc. Now, you didn't just have to build your own family, but you could build, you could take one of the families that was pre-built. You could set them on free will, and they would just do whatever they feel like, or you could take over for them. Now, The Sims came out with 7 expansion packs. You had Live and Large. It was the first expansion ever. It focused on adding new unconventional characters, careers, items, and features. You had Sims House Party, which actually I think had a tie-in with Drew Carey, I believe. I'm not positive. The Sims Hot Date. The Sims Vacation was one of the first times that it took you away from the Sim City that you lived in, the Sim Town that you lived in. The Sims Unleashed, The Sims Superstar, and The Sims Making Magic. Now, the one thing that was huge in all of this is the one thing that has been prevalent throughout the entire Sim series, Sim series, is user-created content, which was huge. You could literally go in and if you were skilled enough, you could make yourself into a Sim, put yourself as a Sim, go in and do whatever it is that you wanted to do with your pretend life. A lot of, equated it to, like playing with dolls or an RPG or something like that, where you plot it all out. The one thing that I thought was interesting was the multiple ways of killing your Sims. And that's what everybody loved the most. There's actually a Control-Alt-Delete comic where it kind of highlighted one of those where you could build a room, put a bunch of chairs in it, put a fireplace, have all your Sims go into the room, have some of them sit down in the chairs, have one dude light the fireplace, pause the game, go back over to where the door was, click on it, delete it, and then watches everybody burn to death. Back in Sims 2 and Sims 3, the greatest thing that you could see one of the coolest ways to kill your Sim was to build a swimming pool, have them go swimming, remove the ladder, and they could not get out of the pool, and thus, as they got tired enough, would drown. There was multiple ways of doing this. Unfortunately, though, Sims didn't really have a whole lot lifespan-wise. I think you had maybe a child, and they stayed a child, an adult who stayed an adult, and then an elderly who stayed an elderly. There was no, just to read from the wiki, while there is no eventual objective to the game, states of failure do exist in The Sims. One is that Sims may die, either by starvation, drowning, fire, or electrocution. When a sim dies, a tombstone or an urn will appear. In later expansion packs, the Grim Reaper will appear first. The ghost of the deceased sim may haunt the building where it died. In addition, sims can leave a household and game for good and never return. If fed up with another sim, two adult sims with bad relationship may brawl, eventually resulting in one of them moving out. Children will be sent away for good if they fail their classes. So The Sims, although it was innovative and interesting, it didn't really have much to it. And just a few years later, in fact, 2004, so about 10 years ago, The Sims 2 was introduced. Now, The Sims 2 kept a lot of things that were in The Sims. In fact, a comparison, and I'm again just going to read from Wikipedia. The Sims 2 is more detailed than The Sims and lets players view its world in full 3D. This is a change from earlier Sims games such as SimCity 2000, which used diametric projection and fixed resolution, as the camera was in The Sims. The Sims are 3D meshes, but The Sims 2 introduces a far more detail in mesh quality, texture quality, and animation capability. A Sim's facial features are customizable and unique, and Sims can smile, frown, and blink, none of which could be done in The Sims. The Sims, you could only turn like 4 ways. I think Sims 2 introduced a full 360 degree. I could be wrong, that may have been introduced in Sims 3. The Sims 2 characters pass through 7 life stages. Babies, toddlers, children, teenagers, young adults, only with university, adults, and elders with eventual death of old age, while babies in The Sims only became children before ceasing to continue aging. The aspiration system is also new to Sims 2. Sims can become pregnant and produce babies that take on genetic characteristics of their parents, such as eye color, hair color, facial structure, and personality traits, as opposed to Sims, in which the baby would take on a random appearance and personality. Genetics play a major role in the game, and as such, dominant and recessive genes play a larger role than they did in the original game. A player can aspire to have a sim abducted by aliens. Males then have the chance to become impregnated and produce, after 3 sim days, a half-alien child. So there you have it. That was the biggest thing about Sims 2, is that you could actually genetically have children, rather than, okay, so Mary Sue and Billy Bob get together and they're married and they have a child. They have a daughter. Mary Sue is redhead and freckled. Billy Bob is black-haired and dark-skinned. And the baby comes out Asian with blonde hair. I kid you not. That's basically what would happen. In Sims 2 and then in Sims 3, that actually expanded on it, and recessive traits and etc. all played into it. Now, of course, when it comes to expansion packs, Sims 2, there was no exception. University, nightlife, open for business, pets, seasons, bon voyage, free time, and then apartment life. Those were all the expansions. They also had stuff packs. I'm not going to go through that because those are many. And then expansion-only compilations and other compilations were also made. Now, the one thing that I liked the most about The Sims 2 is they had what was known as, what was it called? I called it The Sims, the Sim Builder. It was called Create a Sim. It was actually an ability outside of the game that let you create a sim without having to be The Sims 2 Body Shop. That's what it was called. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wiki trying to remind myself. The Sims 2 Body Shop was amazing. You could actually build the sim without going into the game and then import your sim into the game. Not only that, but in The Sims, if you wanted to have your sim, the way your sim looked was tied to a head file. Now, they were all BMPs, so they were editable real easily. If you had the ability to do so, you could do it. But the problem is that if you wanted to have, and I'm going to say it, because if you wanted to have a certain hairstyle, you had to have the right fitting and right textured BMP. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And unless you were really, really good at changing and moving things around, sometimes it just didn't work at all. Sims 2 introduced a new mapping so that the hairstyles were not centered on how your sim looked. Your sim looked depending on how you set the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, and then you could put whatever hairstyle and body style and things like that to it. A lot of the clothing and whatnot in The Sims was tied to how the body looked. Now, moving on, in 2009, so about 5 years after Sims 2, The Sims 3 was introduced. And now here it is, it's about, 5 years later, and we're already talking about a new Sims game. Now, Sims 3 made some major changes compared to Sims 2. And The Sims. Sims and Sims 2, you could literally bounce from house to house to house to house, and it would not affect anything that was going on in the previous house. So, for example, say we had a house in Sims for Sasquatch and a house in The Sims for myself. I could bounce back and forth between the two, and nothing really would be lost. In The Sims 2, you could do the same thing. You bounce back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nothing really was lost. The first major change in Sims 3, and one that I didn't like, and just to let you guys know, you're going to see some things on here. I left some of the mods that I do run in the game. You're going to see some of that, and you probably have seen some of the options already. Pay no mind to that. That's the one thing I love about The Sims, is the mods that you can get for the game. And they're mods that, EA and Maxis aren't really going out and going, hey, don't put the mods out there. Anyways. In The Sims 3, they took that away. You could put multiple families into a city, into a save file, but you could only play one story at a time. Now, that story could last decades, Sims-wise. You just keep on popping out kids, popping out kids, popping out kids. And it could be generations before you do a different family. Could be. Every week you could do something different. Who knows? I'm not sitting here saying, hey, this is what you're gonna do and have fun. No. You bounce back and forth. You couldn't bounce back. You can't bounce back and forth. You can, but you lose everything that you worked on, and that sim could literally melt down, cry, marry another family, and you would never see them again. And that's just the way it is. Sometimes, if you're smart, you can have two families move in together. That way you can work on both of them, but then it does get a little more difficult. That's one thing I have noticed. If it gets harder to play the game with the more Sims you have. Anyways, stating the obvious, it's easier to control one, like I am in this game, versus 8. Which was typically the max that you could have at any time. That being said, let's look at the expansion packs for Sims 3, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what I liked and I didn't like about Sims 3. So you had World Adventures, Ambitions, Late Night, Generations, Pets, Showtime, Supernatural Seasons, University Life, Islanded Paradise, and Into the Future. Now, of course, throughout the years, I have been getting each one when they've gone on sale. I'm not going to drop down to $40 for a full thing. That being said, I'm just going to look at some of the new things that came about. World Adventures additions added new traits, items, clothing. Pretty much that always happened. Added quests, tomb exploration, and 3 new destinations, photography, new build functions including the basement tool, nectar, fireworks, shops, and vacation homes, new vacation worlds, France, Egypt, and China. And then you had a new life state, Mummy, which was interesting. Ambitions introduced new careers, skills, traits, and items. Features control within work, professions, and selected careers. Laundry, tattoo system, skill-based self-employment, and then they added a new world. Now, the new careers were architectural designer, education, firefighter, ghost hunter, medical, investigator, stylist, and self-employed. They also added a new life state, which was Simbot. Late Night introduced vampires, also new careers as a film and band member. I'm not going to go through everything that it introduced. Generations added midlife crisis. This is new interactions, new traits, new profession, which is daycare, and also added a new life state known as imaginary friend. And then pets introduced, pets. You could get cats, animals, horses. The cats, dogs, horses, all living together in mass hysteria, and added a new career as an equestrian, and you could also get a unicorn. You could be in Equestria with a unicorn. Look at that! I found a way to sneak it in. Showtime introduced new careers such as the singer, acrobat, and as you're seeing here, maybe not at this point, but with Audrey, you're watching her as she is a magician. It was the Katy Perry collector edition in there, so I actually added Katy Perry. And he also had a chance to get a new life state, which was the genie. Supernatural, which I featured for a short time on the channel, introduced new life states as a witch, werewolf, zombie, or fairy. And you could also be a fortune teller. That was a new profession. Seasons introduced, literally spring, summer, winter, fall. You also brought back aliens. That was kind of cool. University life brought back the university, so you could go back to that. And it brought in art appraiser, sports agent, video game developer, and it introduced the social networking, photography skills, street arts, bowling, and also introduced a new smartphone feature as well. Island Paradise featured the mermaid life state, new careers. There we go. I couldn't think of the word. New careers of a lifeguard, resort manager, or scuba diver. And last but not least, Into the Future, which gave you basically the ability to travel in time to the future, meet your descendants, and your actions in the past could affect the future. So, for example, if you suddenly became, super rich, your family would go from living in a but into a humble abode to a much more luxurious abode. It also introduced the Plumbot, which was a robot, and then new careers as a Plumbot dealer, astronomer, and Plumbot trainer. So you could actually build your own robot. It was an interesting concept going into the future. And I love doing stuff like that because I like time travel and alternate realities and messing with the future going, ha ha ha, I killed you. I know. Bad, right? Anyways, moving forward. What did I like about Sims 3? Well, I like the upgrades to designing the sim. They look a little bit better, a little more cleaner, but the sliders, and this is where it's actually being changed with Sims 4, there are not going to be any sliders. There's a lot of sliders, and sometimes it just seemed too much. Now, in the game, of course, I've downloaded some mods that had added even more sliders, but it looks like they're going to be doing away with a lot of those sliders or incorporating them into the game itself. So I think that is pretty cool. With Sims 4, but Sims 3, there's all the sliders. In Sims 1 and 2, picking your astrological sign dictated who was best for you as a quote-unquote mate. So, if you picked this one, I'm just saying what it may have been. Like, if you picked Taurus, it was great to be with an Aries, and if you picked Leo, it was great to be with a Virgo. I mean, I'm not positive that's how it was, but that's pretty much the idea. And this, it's just almost like an afterthought. It's like, well, it was in the last game, so just throw it in there. In this, it doesn't really matter as long as you keep the quote-unquote friendship going. Then it's fine. But I don't know. It just seems kind of like, we have this system that's been in there since day one. We might as well just keep it. It makes sense, doesn't it? No? Yes, we'll just keep it. We'll keep it in there. I went from British to slight Irish. We'll keep it in there. Just leave it as is. Boy, just leave it there. I don't know why I did that. Anyways, it it just seemed kind of arbitrary. I liked the like, you know, you could pick the different clothing and whatnot, and they had, you know, tops, bottoms, outfits, which was pretty much introduced in Sims 2. But I mean, it was all right. Nothing to write home about. But what I didn't like is sometimes it wasn't really categorized correctly in my point of view. I guess it seemed to be too much sometimes, and it's hard to go through it all. I did not like this single story. I really don't. If I'm playing Audrey, I don't even remember what her last name is. If I'm playing Audrey here and I'm enjoying it, but I want to try something different, I have two options. I can either keep Audrey and create a second sim, have that sim move in with Audrey, and hope I have enough room for both of them to sleep, or create a new sim, move them into a different house, and then forget Audrey. Or have Audrey move in with that. It just, there was too much. And in that time, you could lose anything that you were working on. You may have had some, you know, goals. As you can see in the bottom, or towards the bottom corner there, there's, you know, things that are popping up with the arrows next to it, with pictures. I just saw one flash. That's well and good, except for, you know, you can only hold on to 4 of those at a time. And if you reach it, great, then you get these ambition points, which then you can buy rewards with. But at the same time, you know, you're working towards that main goal, which is she wants to live the lap of luxury. Live the life of, I don't know, look, she wants to be rich. Have a net worth of like 100,000 simoleons. But it's I don't know, it's just, sometimes it just seems a bit much, and by making it a bit much, it took away from actually enjoying the game by having different places that you can bounce around to. And by different places, I of course mean just in the same town. I can't go, if I made the Sasquatch family, I can't go visit the Sasquatch family and just know that Audrey is going to be A-okay. No, the Sasquatch family is not going to, you know, she's not going to be A-okay. And if I'm playing Audrey, the Sasquatch family is not going to be A-okay. And it becomes a big hassle. And although I enjoyed it, there's a lot to it. It's like I play it and then I start getting bored with it because I can't bounce around. And it becomes almost a grind. Oh, I want to be a magician, but it's, you know, I got to work hard for it. And okay, that's fine and all, but even that, it's like there was work. You know, I could have sent her to become a, I don't know, a business tycoon, and she could have done that, and that was just a normal grind, and, you know, work on this skill, work on that skill. Being a magician, it's even harder because, okay, so she's got to go out and perform, and she can get tired and fatigued from it. Stylists even more so because you actually have to interact with other Sims, and it just became, to me, a bit much. Like even there's the Ghostbuster Sim. I kid you not, the Ghostbuster career, and you can go out and you can bust ghosts. Yeah, come on, we know what it is. But there were times that, you know, the ghosts are moving around, which is well and good, but at the same time, I couldn't focus on, like, sometimes I'm looking for one and you just can't find it. It's just not there. You keep looking, and it's just, as I'm saying this, as I'm looking for a certain type of shower to give her, but you just keep looking and you can't locate it because it's not there. It doesn't exist. Although it says it is, and there was a lot of bugs throughout this entire franchise. Some of the worst were just, like, even this. It's alright, so the arrow is telling you where you should place it, but I can't place it anywhere else but right there. And that's how it opens up, and it works perfectly fine. I don't know. There's some things that I enjoyed about this game, but a lot of it, to me, is lackluster. And there's a lot that's missing. And I really, really, I can't wait to see what Sims 4 is going to bring. But as of right now, Sims 3 was an okay game. If it's on sale and you've played the other two, go ahead, try it out. But I recommend Sims 2 was probably my favorite. It had the create a sim that was outside of the game, which is not in this at all. There is no create a sim outside the game, which to me is disappointing. I really enjoy the create a sim outside of the game because I could make my family there, or if not even just a family, I could at least make the Sims, and then I could put it all together in the game. And that was better than having to deal with, oh, I'm going to go, hopefully, I don't know, hoping nothing. That was the other thing. It's all stored in one spot, so it makes things a little harder to hold on to. So if the game crashes and you lose your Sims, which I've had to happen, it made life terrible. Whereas Sims 2, you had them in the game, but you also had another file that had them in the Sims builder. So I don't know, maybe I'm just griping too much. I hope you guys enjoyed the history of the three games. This was an okay game. It was fun, but it wasn't enough to hold my attention. I don't know, maybe what I'll do is, what I enjoy is like maybe a series where I make a sim and you guys tell me what to do with it. And maybe it'll be a live stream. Who knows? Who knows? But that's it for now. I will see you guys next week with another episode of A Case File. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.